3 communities in regional Victoria have been told to evacuate as floodwaters rise across the state. On Thursday evening, evacuation orders were issued first for Rochester, then also for Carisbrook and Seymour. Residents of all 3 areas have been told to get out before 10 p.m. on Thursday. If you do not evacuate before this time, your property may be isolated or inundated with water and it may be too late to leave, the warnings from Vic Emergency state. Read more. Tasmanians warned to prepare for flash flooding. Major flooding is expected to hit Rochester, a small town roughly 180 kilometers north of Melbourne, on Friday from 10 a.m. The Carisbrook River is expected to rise to minor flood levels at 9 p.m. on Thursday, and is expected to peak on Friday afternoon. Stay up to date with the latest emergency warnings at Vic Emergency. The warnings come as Bureau of Meteorology meteorologist Diana Eadie said the most intense showers will begin to cross Melbourne's western suburbs from 5 p.m., before moving into the central and eastern suburbs. Eadie said there had been about 22 millimeters of rain to 9 a.m. this morning and said the ground was already very saturated. As the rain moves over Melbourne, a number of warnings have been issued, including a watch and act alert for flash flooding in Thomastown, Lilydale, Coldstream, and Yarra Junction. In Seymour, local residents said the floods were the biggest they had ever seen. "It's the biggest that we've seen in the area. We had floods in 1994, but nothing like this," Carrie Ann Speechley told 9 News Melbourne. "I sunk probably 3 foot. I had to get myself out of there using a stick to make sure nothing is in the floodwater," local Will Speechley said. Read more. Coroner finds missing pregnant woman was murdered earlier today. More than 40 schools have been closed and train lines have gone down as multiple watch and act alerts are issued. Emergency Management Commissioner Andrew Crisp said there were currently 70 warnings in place across the state. He urged drivers to stay off the roads, to check road closures and be aware that it was a dynamic situation. "If you don't need to be on the road today, don't be on the road. What you are doing is you are distracting our emergency services from doing the job we need to be doing," he said. Read more. Victorian state election. Everything you need to know about the upcoming election. Satellite images published by WeatherZone show a massive cloud band stretching 5,000 kilometers from the Indian Ocean to Australia's southeast. It's this cloud band that's brought the current wave of extreme weather to that part of the country. Huge falls are also impacting Tasmania, which could see up to 200 millimeters of rain in just 24 hours. A massive 129 millimeters of rain had already fallen in Strathbogie North and central Victoria by 9 a.m. today, while wind gusts overnight reached 109 kilometers per hour at Mount Hotham. Read more. Terrifying mid-flight brawl forces Jetstar flight to turn around. A severe weather warning for damaging winds and heavy rainfall is in place for most of the state. The SES has already responded to more than 1,600 calls for help in Victoria in the 24 hours until 4 p.m. today, with the worst of the weather forecast for the state still yet to come. Of those calls, 911 were for flooding, 193 for trees down, 153 for building damage, and crews carried out 30 floodwater rescues. Read more. Mother accused of spending spree after mistakenly receiving $10 million in crypto bungleheads to trial. The Department of Transport has described driving conditions as extremely hazardous, urging drivers to defer non-essential travel. As significant rain moves towards metropolitan Melbourne, many roads are likely to close due to flooding or will be impacted by floodwaters, fallen trees and debris, the department said. Poor conditions and high traffic volumes will result in challenging conditions on major roads like the Monash Freeway, Westgate Freeway, M80 Ring Road and Eastern Freeway. Read more. When will the rain end? Hint, it's not good news. Parts of regional Victoria begin to flood already. There is water over major roads, including the Melba, Hume, Calder, and Maroondah highways. Buses are replacing trains on sections of the Shepparton, Albury, Echuca, Swan Hill and Warrnambool lines, due to extreme weather and flooding affecting parts of the rail network. The Department of Education has advised that a number of schools and kindergartens across the state have closed due to flooding or risk of flooding. In central Victoria, Broadford High School was closed at lunchtime, with all students sent home on buses to do remote learning for the rest of the week. Read more. Dynamic situation. Tasmanians warned to prepare for flash flooding. Residents of Rochester, 180 kilometers north of Melbourne, have been told waters could potentially rise to 115 meters above sea level, affecting hundreds of homes. Thousands of sandbags have been filled and residents have been urged to evacuate after they have done their best to prepare their homes and businesses for a flood. Up to 80 millimeters of rain is expected in the north and west of Victoria today, with isolated totals of 120 millimeters or higher. Roads in Castlemaine, Heathcote and Bendigo have also begun flooding, cutting off parts of the town. One Heathcote resident has told 9 News Melbourne that she had never seen flooding this bad. In Echuca, residents have been advised to boil their water until further notice after storm water entered a treated water storage tank. This may compromise the safety of the drinking water, Caliban Water via Twitter. More than 1,000 people are currently without power in Echuca, according to Power Corps. There are also outages in Bendigo, Daylesford, and Rochester. Read more, an extra $170 a week, the real numbers of inflation hitting Aussies. Read more, sellers offering to take on strangers demerit points for cash and Facebook black market. The SES has received over 200 calls for help in the last 24 hours, mostly for minor flooding. Yesterday, about 100 people were evacuated from Falls Creek due to a slow-moving landslide cutting off the access road. Victorian Emergency Management Commissioner Andrew Crisp told 3AW that the state will continue to see this cycle over the next 6 to 8 weeks. If you don't need to be on the roads today, please don't be on the roads, because it's not just about the floods, it's also about the trees, he told 3AW. Crisp warned the state would be in this for a while, with Victorians in for a campaign flood event. Tasmania too is expecting an inundation, with up to 300 millimeters of rain to fall in places just today. By 9 a.m. today a total of 185 millimeters had already fallen at Great Lake East and 148 millimeters had fallen at Lake Mackenzie. There are currently heavy rain and major floods warnings in place for northern Tasmania. Read more. Melbourne Airport security breach caused by an innocent mistake. New South Wales is also in the firing line with rivers still swollen from recent rain. A woman and her daughter had to be rescued from floodwaters at Forbes in the state's central west.